The men who shout the loudest about power are never the ones who understand it. They fight for positions, for titles, for attention. They chase the stage lights, believing that the glare makes them bright. But the truly dangerous mind does not compete for the crown. He studies it, understands what it does to men, and then he walks away, because he knows what power really is. It looks like control, but it feeds on insecurity. It promises freedom, but demands obedience. It offers glory, but takes peace. And most people will trade everything for its illusion. You've already seen what happens when society worships power. When the throne is empty, the fools climb first. The loud rise faster than the wise. The confident are chosen over the competent. And the system rewards those who can be predicted, not those who can see. In the last lesson, we learned why. Society will always create idiots in power because it fears those who see too clearly. It prefers the familiar, even when the familiar is broken, and it rejects what it cannot understand. But there is something deeper. If the world keeps rewarding ignorance, why do the ones who truly see refuse to fight for the throne? Why do they walk away when they could lead, reshape, or rule? Are they afraid of failure? Are they too pure for the game? Or have they simply seen the truth hidden beneath the surface? That power itself is the trap. Aristotle saw it more than 2,000 years ago. He warned that power corrupts the pursuit of wisdom, that the man who seeks to rule others has already lost rule over himself. And centuries later, Jung saw the same thing in the human soul. That power is not a sign of strength, but a mask for weakness. The dangerous mind understands both. He knows that every crown comes with a chain, that every throne feeds on the man who sits upon it. So when he looks at power, he does not reach for it. He sees it for what it is, an illusion that consumes those who believe in it. And that's why he walks away, not because he fears it, but because he no longer needs it. Power has always fascinated men. It looks like strength, like freedom, like the ability to bend the world to your will. But Aristotle saw through that illusion long before our world was built on it. He understood that power doesn't just change the world, it changes the man who holds it. In his politics, he divided wisdom into two kinds: Sophia, theoretical wisdom, the pursuit of truth, and phronesis, practical wisdom, the skill of managing people and affairs. The wise man seeks Sophia. The ruler needs phronesis, and that is where the corruption begins. Because phronesis is not about truth, it's about persuasion. It's about understanding what keeps the crowd calm, not what keeps the world right. The ruler must learn how to make people feel safe, not how to make them think clearly. He trades truth for comfort. He learns to speak not what is real, but what is acceptable. That's why Aristotle said, power is the currency of the masses, not of the wise. The masses want familiarity, not brilliance. They follow the one who reflects their fears, not the one who challenges them. A leader, to survive, must mirror the crowd. He must become a version of them, louder, stronger, more confident, but never too different. So when a man of depth looks at this system, he understands what it demands. It demands compromise. It demands the death of clarity. To rule, you must perform. You must become the mirror the crowd wants to see. And the moment you do, you stop being yourself. That is the real illusion of power. Doesn't elevate, it disguises. The man on the throne is not free. He's trapped in the image others need him to be. Every decision he makes must protect that image. Every truth he hides keeps the illusion alive. Aristotle saw that power blinds those who chase it and bores those who understand it. The wise do not seek control over others because they know it is a distraction from the harder task, control over the self. They do not fear power. They simply see it for what it is, a necessary tool for society, but a poison for the soul. So they step back. They choose clarity over applause, truth over influence, solitude over spectacle. They would rather be right and forgotten than praised and hollow, because, as Aristotle warned, the pursuit of power is never about freedom. It's about dependence, on attention, on validation, on control. And the man who understands that, the one who can stand outside the crowd and see it play out, he realizes something dangerous. That power doesn't reveal greatness, it reveals need. And the wise have outgrown the need to be obeyed. Aristotle understood the structure of power, but Jung understood its psychology, why it corrupts not just societies but souls. He called it a psychic danger because power doesn't just change what a man does, it changes what he allows himself to become. When a man gains power, something ancient inside him awakens. Jung called it the shadow, the buried part of us that hides ambition, envy, and the hunger to dominate. Most people spend their lives pretending that shadow isn't real, but power gives it permission to speak. And once the shadow begins to speak, it doesn't whisper, it commands. At first, it feels like strength. The man becomes confident, decisive, fearless. He begins to think he finally understands the world. But what he's really feeling is inflation, the shadow swelling, feeding on his sense of control. He no longer rules himself. He's ruled by what he's unleashed. Jung wrote that the man who has not faced his shadow will project it onto others. He will see enemies everywhere. He will blame, accuse, and punish, believing he is fighting darkness when it is his own. Power makes this projection invisible, because when you hold authority, your shadow feels righteous. Your anger becomes justice. Your manipulation becomes leadership, and your greed becomes destiny. That is why power is so seductive. It disguises possession as purpose. The man believes he's serving a cause, but he's really serving his ego. He begins to speak not for truth, but for validation. He surrounds himself with those who echo his illusions, and the more he is praised, the less he remembers who he was before the praise began. But there are others, the dangerous minds, who see this pattern early. They have met their shadow before they ever tasted power. They've looked into that dark mirror and realized how easily strength becomes control and how quickly control becomes addiction. They fear not power itself, but what it would awaken in them. Jung said, "He who looks into the abyss must take care that the abyss does not look back." The wise man has looked long enough to know the abyss has his face. That is why he steps back from the throne, not because he doubts his ability to lead, but because he understands what the throne demands, the surrender of his inner freedom. And there is another layer to Jung's warning, the persona. Every position of power demands a mask. It requires you to become a symbol of certainty, even when you are uncertain, to appear flawless, even when you are afraid. The longer you wear that mask, the more it fuses to your skin, until one day you forget what your real face looked like. The man who has completed Jung's individuation, who has integrated both his light and his shadow, cannot live behind a mask anymore. He has nothing left to prove and nothing left to perform. That's why he cannot survive inside systems built on image. He doesn't fit the theater of power because he no longer needs the audience. So he walks away, not in defeat, but in understanding, because he knows what few men ever learn, that power, once possessed, does not serve the man, it consumes him. The shadow does not serve the king, it devours him. And the only man who escapes that fate is the one who refuses the crown before it ever touches his head. For thousands of years, thinkers like Aristotle and Jung warned that power was a kind of madness, a sickness of perception. And now modern behavioral science has proven that they were right. Power doesn't just corrupt morals, it reshapes the human mind. At the University of California, psychologist Dasher Keltner spent decades studying how power changes the brain. His findings were unsettling. When a person gains power, the regions of the brain responsible for empathy begin to shut down. They lose the ability to read emotions, to recognize pain, to see the subtle humanity in others. They interrupt more. They listen less. They begin to act as if the rules that govern ordinary people no longer apply to them. In effect, power rewires the mind to believe in its own exception. Aristotle would not have been surprised. He called this the blindness of the powerful, the illusion that authority equals understanding. And Jung explained why. He said that when the shadow expands, it inflates the ego until the man can no longer distinguish between his will and the truth. Power feeds that inflation. It turns the ego from servant into master. What begins as confidence becomes possession. You can see this everywhere. A man promoted too quickly, a celebrity adored beyond reason, a leader surrounded only by those who nod. They start to lose proportion. They mistake agreement for respect, attention for love, control for strength. Soon, they no longer lead, they perform. They are no longer people, they are masks. Behavioral science names this the hubris effect. The longer someone holds power, the more convinced they become of their own correctness. They start to overestimate their morality, underestimate their fallibility, and stop questioning themselves entirely. It is a quiet, invisible decay of awareness. And there is another force beneath it, what psychologists call the Dunning-Kruger effect. The less someone knows, the more confident they feel. Ignorance creates certainty. Intelligence creates doubt. That's why fools rush into positions of power while the wise hesitate. The crowd confuses that hesitation with weakness and ends up following the wrong men. Social dominance theory describes the same pattern. Human societies divide along two instincts, those who seek hierarchy and those who seek balance. The hierarchy seekers, the ones who crave to rule, rise easily because they play the game without conscience. The balance seekers, the thinkers, the observers, the self-aware, withdraw because they see the cost of winning. Even evolutionary psychology agrees. Our brains were not built for truth. They were built for belonging. We trust those who make us feel safe, even if they're wrong. We reject those who make us uncomfortable, even if they're right. So the crowd crowns the confident liar and crucifies the hesitant genius. When you put it all together, a brutal pattern appears. The same forces that create power also destroy wisdom. The systems that elevate leaders filter out the very minds capable of leading well. That is why Aristotle's warning still stands, and why Jung's shadow still rules from behind the mask of authority. Power dulls empathy. It inflates ignorance, it rewards blindness, and in doing so, it proves the philosophers were right. The man who truly understands power can never seek it, because to desire it is to already be enslaved by it. There is a strange pattern in history. Every time the world cries out for better leaders, the men who could truly lead are already gone. Not dead, just absent. Watching from a distance, and the crowd never understands why. Aristotle did. He wrote, "He who is fit to rule does not wish to rule, because to rule is not freedom, it is dependence. The ruler may seem powerful, but his power lives and dies with the approval of those he governs. He must perform strength even when he feels none. He must please the very crowd that fears the truth. So, in trying to rule others, he becomes ruled by their expectations. The wise see this clearly. They see that leadership, as society defines it, is a contract of obedience disguised as control. You win the throne only by serving the illusions of others. You stay on it by keeping those illusions alive, and that is not mastery, that is servitude. Jung explained the same paradox in another language. He said, "The man who controls himself is feared by those who control others, because self-mastery breaks the logic of domination. It reveals a kind of power that cannot be taken away, and therefore cannot be manipulated. The man who has conquered himself has no interest in conquering anyone else. His peace is not fragile because it does not depend on obedience, reputation, or recognition. That's what makes him dangerous. He cannot be bought, he cannot be threatened, he cannot be used. And that is why societies built on control cannot tolerate men like him. They call him arrogant, uncooperative, a loner, a philosopher, anything but free. The crowd mistakes restraint for fear. They believe refusal means weakness. But refusal is the highest form of understanding. It's the moment when a man realizes that the game is rigged, and the only winning move is not to play. Nietzsche once said, "He who cannot command himself will be commanded." That's the heart of this paradox. The men who seek to rule others are driven by the part of them they cannot rule. The men who have achieved inner order have nothing left to prove, so they step aside. And when they do, the system begins to panic, because control only works on those who still want something from it. Once a man no longer wants power, no one can hold power over him. Aristotle saw this as the highest virtue, a mind governed by reason, not appetite. Jung saw it as individuation, the unification of light and shadow into one steady consciousness. Both meant the same thing. The greatest authority a man can achieve is authority over himself. So the paradox stands. The ones most capable of ruling never seek to rule. The ones who desire power are the least fit to hold it. And the world keeps mistaking hunger for strength. Because the dangerous mind, the one who could command nations, looks at the throne and sees not glory, but gravity. He knows that every man who sits there eventually bends to it, and he would rather stand on his own feet alone than kneel beneath the weight of borrowed power. There is a quiet tragedy that follows every man who sees too clearly. The more he understands, the lonelier he becomes, because knowledge doesn't unite, it separates. It pulls you away from the noise, away from the crowd, until you begin to see what others can't. And once you see it, you can never unsee it. Aristotle once said, "The contemplative life is the highest, but also the most misunderstood." He understood something most people never will, that seeing too much is not a blessing in this world. It's a burden. The man who thinks deeply doesn't fit in because the world doesn't want to think. It wants to move, to consume, to believe. And the moment you question that rhythm, you become the problem. Society depends on shared illusions. It needs people to agree on what's normal, what's good, what's true, even when those things are lies. The man who sees beyond those lies threatens the fragile balance that keeps the crowd together. He pulls the thread that holds the collective dream in place, and so the crowd turns on him, not because he is wrong, but because he is inconvenient. Jung saw this too. He said, "The wise man carries the loneliness of clarity, because clarity separates you from the comfort of confusion." Most people need their illusions to survive. They need enemies to blame, leaders to follow, gods to worship. They need someone to tell them what to believe. But the wise man no longer needs that. He's seen the machinery behind the curtain, the gears turning the world, and he knows most people would rather live in the dream than face the truth that drives it. So he becomes an outsider, not by choice, but by consequence. His detachment makes others uneasy. His silence feels like judgment. His independence looks like rebellion. And the more he stands still, the more the restless masses call him strange, arrogant, dangerous. History repeats this pattern endlessly. Socrates questioned his city, and they killed him. Spinoza challenged their God, and they exiled him. Diogenes mocked their comfort, and they called him mad. Even Jesus, who spoke of inner freedom, was feared by the very people he tried to free. Society will always punish the man who sees it too clearly, because his existence reveals what others are trying to hide. Aristotle understood that the contemplative life, the life of thought, of self-mastery, is the highest form of human existence, but it is also the loneliest. Because to live by truth means you can no longer live by approval. To stand by what you see means you must walk away from what everyone else worships. And yet, the wise man does not resent his solitude. He learns to live with it. He carries it like armor, not chains. Because he knows that solitude is the tax of seeing clearly. It is the cost of consciousness. And while others chase belonging, he chooses understanding. For he knows that peace built on illusion is not peace, it's sleep. And that the loneliness of truth, as heavy as it feels, is still lighter than the comfort of a lie. When the wise man walks away from power, it looks like surrender, but it isn't. It's transcendence. Because he's discovered a kind of strength the world cannot see, a power that doesn't depend on followers, fame, or control. The man who once sought to rule others learns to rule himself. And that is where the real throne is. Aristotle called this eudaimonia, the state of inner flourishing, where a man's actions align perfectly with his nature. It isn't happiness in the shallow sense. It's harmony. It's the freedom that comes from mastering one's desires, one's fears, one's impulses. The man who achieves that no longer needs to dominate anyone, because he has conquered the most difficult kingdom of all, his own mind. Jung called this individuation, the integration of light and shadow into one complete self. He believed that true power comes from wholeness, not from pretending to be pure and not from performing perfection. The man who accepts his darkness is no longer controlled by it. He doesn't need to prove his strength because he has already made peace with his weakness. That is what separates the wise from the rulers. The ruler commands others to hide his own chaos. The wise man commands himself to understand it, and in doing so, he becomes something power cannot touch. Modern thinkers call this sovereignty, not the sovereignty of nations, but of the soul. It's the ability to stand alone in truth, to act without seeking permission, to live without needing validation. It is quiet, it is invisible, but it is absolute. Power over others is fragile, power over self is eternal. That is the law the wise live by, because they've seen what the world calls power, the crowns, the thrones, the applause, and they know how quickly it rots. The moment attention fades, the illusion dies with it. But self-mastery, once earned, never fades. It doesn't depend on circumstance. It doesn't demand an audience. So when intelligence sees the game, it stops playing. But when wisdom steps back, it doesn't abandon the world. It begins to shape it from the shadows. Because the truly dangerous mind doesn't need to rule to have influence. He changes the world not by commanding it, but by understanding it so completely that his mere existence becomes a mirror, one that forces others to see themselves. And that is the ultimate paradox of power. The man who no longer needs it is the only one who truly has it. If this made you see the world a little clearer, stay, think deeper. This is ThinkMate.